And I'm Karen, this is Sarah. And we've each done this session one other time with a different partner, Tara Caldara, who is from the Zion Benton Public Library. So I did the session once with Tara, Sarah did it once with her, and what we have found is that we don't want to talk too much, we don't want to give you too much content, we want to have plenty of time for you to talk to us and ask us questions and express all your deepest, darkest anxieties about social media. Because it seems like, even though it's so ubiquitous now and so much a part of our daily lives and our culture, we're still a little freaked out about it at times. So we're going to give you lots of time to talk with us and with each other about that. I have slides and stuff, but we may or may not use them. They're just there mostly to help me remember what I want to talk about. The memory is starting to go. And to give me some more things to talk about if we run out of things to talk about. So again, we may or may not use the slides. One thing I did put out on the tables is kind of a recommended reading list. One thing we heard from your mentors is, how do I keep up with social media? I'll show you a couple things that I like doing, but this also gives you some focused reading on specific issues of social media management that you might be interested in. Branding, what are the best times to post, how do you protect your online reputation. The one here, Masters of Disaster, is actually a book, but it's a very well-written book on really, really big issues of reputation management, like, I'm just going to throw out the names, Tiger Woods and Bill Clinton, and who handled it well and who didn't. And it's written by the people, the experts who helped them handle those crises. I hope your organization never has a need for that book, but that's what I thought when I got into this business too, and it's been sort of surprising for me. So I don't think we have to tell you why you need to be on social media. I think we're done with that conversation. I think we know we need to be there. And I imagine, unlike the first cohort we worked with, we probably don't even need to tell you how to get there. At that point, we still had folks who were like, I've never looked at Facebook, I've never looked at Twitter, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think we're beyond that point. We're ready to talk about how to do it and how to do it well and how to manage your time if you're doing this as part of your work so that you're not going crazy trying to keep up with it 24/7. Sarah, do you want to, the other thing I think is helpful in this conversation is that Sarah works here in an academic library and I work in a public library, so we can give you kind of two different perspectives, I think, on content that's appropriate for each type of organization. So you want to talk a little bit about how you're using your social media here? Like, what kinds of things are you posting?
Yeah, so we do a pretty wide variety of things here. Our big thing is we have to be in line with the university's social networking policies. And they're not super stringent, but they exist. And people are monitoring our stuff, and they'll let me know if we're doing it wrong. They have no problem telling me I'm doing it wrong. And so we do a lot of things. We do a mixture of, on this campus, we try to repost and share each other's links across campus as much as humanly possible. If you haven't figured out, we're on an island out here. Our students are completely surrounded by cornfields. The closest pool hall bar is a mile away, and a lot of our students don't have cars. So they're kind of landlocked, and the bus system isn't awesome in Springfield. So it's really important that we kind of help each other get the word out about what's going on campus. So we'll just kind of share random things. We do that a lot. But we do things, we create book lists in our discovery tool. We use WorldCat Local here. And we usually connect it to either something that's happening now in the moment, or like this day in history kind of thing. So this day in history, this happened, read more about it at your library, and then a link to a book list. We get a lot of hits on those. People seem to really, really like that. Whether they're checking the books out or not, they seem to really enjoy the whole, like, you're right, that thing was cool, and I could read more about it. I don't know if they are or not. I guess I could go check the stats on those individual books if I wanted to. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff, and we just try really hard to interact on Facebook. We can't get much interaction on Twitter. Our campus doesn't they want to just follow. Like, they're Twitter stalkers and Facebook engagers. So, yeah, so it's kind of a hodgepodge of lots of things, and, general library information goes up, of course, too, so.
Yeah, and my neck of the woods, these slides just will not go. They're not interested in moving. Here we go. That is so weird. There we go. No, I'm still going the wrong way. All right, so we use Twitter and Facebook and some other things, but those are the two that I'm kind of primarily responsible for. Twitter, for me, at my library, is more important because we have a widget for it on our website in various places, including the homepage. So it keeps the homepage fresh and interesting. We have several, I don't know, 800 or so followers. I think a small percentage of those are sort of legitimate followers, patrons in our community who are keeping up with us that way. A lot of them are authors that just want to push their book on us. We do connect with a lot of local businesses and organizations on Twitter, and that's important again for retweeting. They really count on us to help spread the word about what they're doing, and we're happy to do that. And we also have a community calendar online where they can enter their events. So I do a lot of that, trying to say, hey, Barrington Wine Walk is tomorrow from 5 to 10 on whatever street, go over there and drink and shop, you know, or this particular charity is having a fundraising breakfast on Sunday, so check it out. You know, we do a lot of that. We do connect with authors and some of our presenters very well on Twitter, and that's kind of cool. You know, they'll tweet, hey, I'm presenting at the BA Library next week on this particular topic, and then we'll retweet it back and forth. We've connected well with authors. We have an adult, what we call a social book club that meets at a local bar called The Annex, and the authors will see that we're reading their book, and then they'll say, oh, hey, that's awesome, and we've done some Skype chats and things with them based on our interaction with them on Twitter, so that's been rewarding. And we've been told, Barrington is a funny community, as you may or may not know. It's a very affluent community. We have lots of entrepreneurs, we have lots of people trying to come up with the next big thing, and one of the things they all seem to be doing right now is building an app. And so there are a lot of Barrington apps and also websites and things that are unique about Barrington life. We have a lot of publications about life in our community. And we've been told that the library is like the most influential tweeter about Barrington right now, that some of those apps bring in tweets, who's tweeting about Barrington, and we're doing most of it. So that was kind of a nice thing to know. Facebook, just like Sarah, that's more where we get more engagement from people. We get comments, we get likes, we get complaints, yes. What I share on there, lots of pictures of kids doing stuff in our library. People absolutely cannot get enough of that. We have beautiful gardens around the building. Last year we had a heavy snowfall, and I had our two most adorable youth services librarians go out and make a snowman, and oh, you know, I mean, there was just loads of likes and happy comments about that. Squirrels occasionally come to my window and do bizarro things, and so I take pictures of them, and so it's fun stuff. We do post about books and all those useful things and events, but a lot of our interaction where we get the most response from people are more like those just cute, funny, spur-of-the-moment things. They do, as I said, leave a lot of comments and connect with us much more than they do on Twitter. So I mentioned that, you know, how do you manage all this and eat and sleep at the same time? This is pretty much a 24/7 world. So Sarah is going to talk about some of the tools that both of us use to help us stay connected while still sometimes getting sleep. Oh, there's the squirrel. I wanted to share him. I mean, and this is where I'm sitting. I mean, he is right there, and it's just I'm always like, dude, what do you want? You know? He claws at the screen. He's it's
library card.
Oh, and there they are. Look at them. Is that like a Ralph Lauren ad or what? I mean, they're Andy, was it you? Were you the one who said to me they look like they were on a date and they just went out and made a snowman together? They didn't, but they're so super adorable. So okay.
I think it's like a '90s love story movie. Yeah.
It is. It's like John Cusack and some adorable girl. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, doing this.
I love John Cusack.
Who doesn't? All right. Yes, please.
People that are younger than us.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 different ways that you could tackle managing all of this, because it is really easy to get lost in it. When I started here, I was in a position that wasn't really a position before I got here. And so I got here on my first day and I was handed an emergency contact sheet and some pens, and that was it. I am not exaggerating.
Do you really need more than that?
It was just so funny because I was just fill that out, 2 minutes, all right, 8:32, what do I do?
Yeah.
It was just unfortunate. My boss was in meetings all day, so we couldn't have the formal orientation, and because my job, I was hired on a whim in a very fast fashion, so it was just kind of now what? So I was like, I'll make a Facebook page and Twitter, that'll be fun. And so that's kind of what I did for my first month or so, really. I mean, I did other things. But, so I spent a lot of time on it, and the problem is it very quickly became a drain when I started to get other things to do. I couldn't find the time to continue to manage it at the level that I had set it up at, and I wanted it to stay at that level because there was a lot of nurturing there. I was very protective of it, and I kind of didn't let anybody else in for a very long time. But there are some tools. So you can use a social networking management platform. Hootsuite's a really good example. Hootsuite lets you put many, many different networks in here. We have our Twitter and our Facebook because that's, I think, how it works the best. But you can put your WordPress in here. I mean, I can show you. All I have to do. So Google+, LinkedIn, Foursquare, WordPress, MySpace, Mixi.
There's stuff here you've never even heard of,
Yeah, I don't know
like
what
Mixi.
Mixi is, to be honest. So you can add all of those in here,
All the kids are on Mixi these days.
apparently.
Yeah.
And
What is it, Karen? You know?
I don't know.
I'm being facetious, I'm sorry, I have no idea, and it just sounds silly.
It's going to
It's
default
probably
and
true,
give you feeds. There's a home feed. It's just like your Twitter home feed, so this is our Twitter page. It's just going to show you all the tweets that you've sent.
Social networking website in Japan.
And then I have a section over here that I call mentions. So anytime anybody mentions us by our actual name, which is @UISlib, let's talk about names for a second. That's a horrible name. No one refers to us by that. Everybody just calls us Brookins. We should have just been at Brookins or Brookins Library. Biggest mistake myself and my colleague made at that point in time.
Can you not change it?
We'll be changing it very soon.
You can change it.
You can change it. You'll keep all your followers. Everything's fine.
Gotcha.
So we'll be changing that soon. No one talks about us that way, ever.
You'll be sad to know there's already an app Brookings.
I think that was the problem. We were also trying to keep it really short. I don't know. It was 3.5 years ago. I have no idea what decisions I was making then. And then there's more feeds. You can see the scroll bar. So you can just add what they call streams. Each of those columns is called a stream, and you can add all sorts of them. The best part about using a tool like this, you can have it up all day, and I do. It's up on my computer all day long. I have the feeds that I want. I can see when somebody mentions us immediately. I can see when the tweets go out, so I can kind of monitor that. And then I have streams, my tweets retweeted, any direct messages to us, and then on the one on my computer, because I actually use the Chrome add-on, I have streams for various other searches, Brookins Library, and those types of things, because that's how they're referring to us, and so I see all of those as well. Do not for a second think that everyone's going to figure out what your name is and use it in their tweets every time. They're going to call you whatever they want to call you. So listen to what people call you and create a search stream for it, because that's how they're going to talk about you. And like I said, no one...
That was me.
Very good. Yeah, so it's really nice because I can see it really fast, and if I need to respond, I can do so. Like I mentioned, people just don't really want to talk to us on Twitter. They sometimes, this is one of our best library users of all time. Her name is Emily. She just graduated. She moved to Minnesota. She's got to get a new library card. Apparently it's a thing. This is our director of systems talking. We get a lot of working in Brookins is like being in an icebox, because if you haven't figured out yet, these buildings are very cold, and the library is no different. So we get a lot of things like that. And some people like it when I'm like, oh, we're so sorry, it's so cold, we'll see what we can do. I can't do anything about it, but I like to say I can. And some people seem to like that, thanks so much. And some people don't want me to talk back at all. So I try to gauge it.
Mick Jacobson came out for the best expression for that. He called it creepy treehouse. At a certain point, they've done some studies, and I can show you who did them, but and this is in the retail world, but most consumers want to be able to talk about you without you going, hey, see that you're talking about, unless you're going to step in and offer a solution, if they've had an unhappy, if they're just kind of gripe. I tell you the saddest day at my Barrington career was a local teen tweeted, the name of another library with the greater than symbol, and then my library. But was I going to respond to that and be like, oh, what can I do? No, because she's got a pretty valid point. That's why we're renovating, because our building is sort of stuck in 1978 right now. I don't blame a teenager for thinking, ew. But, no, I wasn't going to respond. But I have seen, sometimes it's just funny. Like a guy posted, like, gotta go pay my overdue fines at BA Library, and I was just like, sorry, bud, and I just, and he laughed. And so you can have, I think, positive exchanges, but you don't want people to feel like, NSA, here we go again, I'm snooping in on your conversations. People are uncomfortable with that.
We have an interesting sort of situation where I have a search for the university. So the library has a column for searches for that, but then the most interaction we get is people complaining about other offices in the university. Like financially, it's the worst. It's just terrible. So at first we were sort of trying to address them and then quickly realized that that had nothing to do with us. And so we started to send those out to that department to say, this student is having a problem. But I mean, it was kind of insightful to see what people were saying about, your university or your place as a whole.
It is. It is good to pay attention, but you don't necessarily have to respond to the majority of them, because people will just feel weird.
I have a kind of an unspoken rule, unless somebody actually asks the question in their post, where they might just say Brookins and asks the question, then I can tell that they probably want a response. But otherwise, unless they actually use our handle, and they know for a fact that I'm watching it at that point, I hope they actually, probably half of them don't know that I'm watching it. We're talking about 18-year-olds here, who I love working with, but privacy is not something they fully understand all the time. So I try to not just talk back at the people who are just talking about us using however they refer to us, but I like to monitor it because they're saying all sorts of really interesting things.
I also have moments of panic. There are many Barringtons in the United States and even overseas. So I'll see, I'm at Barrington Library and I'm stealing some magazines, and you're kind of go, and then you realize the person's like in Massachusetts or Rhode Island where there are other Barrington libraries. So, I have to, again, some people use the VA library name and others just say Barrington Library, and so I can't get too hung up on that.
That was my question, like when you set up your stream that they're mentioning your library, there's like 3 or 4 other Three Rivers library, so you just monitor all of those and figure out which ones are yours and which ones are
I mean,
the
the Google
libraries.
News updates are the same way.
Yeah,
Every day I get an
Google News
email,
updates,
and 90% of the articles that they are sending me are not about my Barrington
Yeah.
library, so
Okay.
I just have to figure it out.
Yeah.
So between posting, retweeting, monitoring, etc., how much time in a 7-hour day or 8-hour day does this take?
Quite a bit, but this is why we use Hootsuite. You can schedule posts in Hootsuite, this little calendar guy right here. So what I eventually did is I sat down and I said, and this is a little extreme now, I don't do it this way, but when I, like 2 years ago when I was doing it, this is what I did. I sat down and I said, these are the types of things I want to push out and see if people like them. So I actually had a little calendar for myself. So on Mondays, a tweet would go out about our subject research guides. And I would highlight a different one each week. On Tuesdays, I'd feature a database. On Wednesdays, I'd feature a book list. On Thursdays, I'd feature this day in history. And on Fridays, I try to do something around media or fun stuff like DVDs, audiobooks. The thing is, everyone on this campus, most campuses, you deal with the stereotype that we're just here to help them with their research and we don't have the cool stuff too. Now we have a much smaller amount of it, but we have it. And so I always try to looking for a good movie this weekend, those types of things. So I knew I always had one tweet going out. I would sit on Monday morning and I would do that and schedule them all for the week and I was done. Then I just kind of had to monitor, and then anytime something fun happened or cool happened, I could do the impromptu tweets in the middle. Because you really have to have a balance if you're going to schedule out, because it can sound canned really quickly. But what it allows you to do is make sure that you have some activity, because there's just those days where you walk and you say, I'm going to send out a tweet today on this, and then the day gets away from you and it doesn't happen. And so scheduling some here and there allows us to make sure there's activity, and then we just put the impromptu things on top of it.
I
So-
do mine a little bit differently in that I rarely, if I'm in the office for the week, I don't schedule much in advance. I work on that day. A week like this, I had to spend a lot of time last Friday knowing that I was going to be gone then through tomorrow, getting all of our tweets lined up. I don't worry about Facebook because I have 2 other staff members that I trust to be on Facebook that will post maybe one thing a day, so I let them do that when I'm not around. But Twitter is me and only me at my library. So the scheduler for this week was just packed. Sometimes I need help in that case because trying to come up with like 50, 60 interesting tweets for a whole week at one pop is tough. So what I did, and Sarah has done this too, I sent out an email to my colleagues and said, what are you reading right now? Title and author. Send me a ton of those. And so all of this whole week has been peppered with what we're reading. Adult Services librarian Lizzie is reading blah, blah, blah. Our director is reading, just kind of sprinkle those all throughout the week to make it interesting. But it is really hard. It seems like some days it's like pulling teeth, and other days I have more stuff than I know what to do with. I use, my first column, cool and interesting people that we follow, authors and publishers, but also just what's going on in the world. So if it's like 5:30, I want to go home, what can I put the last thing on the page tonight? I'll find a great recipe from Bon Appetit, or I'll find something from one of our local businesses. Our patrons like that kind of stuff. They're into food, they're into fine wine, they're into travel, so that often fills up a lot of my dead space when I don't have I don't like to push the library stuff over and over and over again. That, again, it looks really canned. I see some libraries that do that. I don't understand it. They're in Hootsuite, so they've got the scheduler. They schedule 5 posts to go out Monday afternoon. And it's like, story time tomorrow at 11, story time Thursday at 2, free program tonight, and then they push them all out at the same time. It's like, no, the point of the scheduler is to spread them out over time. So that's a godsend for me, because you just can't possibly do it. If I can say one more thing about scheduling, I'm going to turn it back to you. When there's something going on in the world that's disturbing to people, get in here fast and shut off your tweets. To me, there's nothing more horrible than during the Newtown tragedy, to see all these people just posting, hey, we're showing Spider-Man tonight, I don't know why it was so distasteful, and a lot of people were on social media griping about it. So you can very quickly go into your scheduled tweets and either just delete them, push them a day forward, and then I usually put up a message, couple things. I would put up links to things like how to talk to your children about tragedy, or I would just say, out of respect for the residents of Newtown, we're not going to tweet for the rest of the day. And I left that on our page. So that's just something, please keep that in mind. It can just look like you are completely insensitive and disconnected from the world if you just keep your normal tweets going out at times like that.
I was just going to say, if you need to put something, always what happened in history today, or important people born today in the past is,
I know libraries that they seem to know an author who was born or who died every day of the year. It's amazing to me.
Chases,
Yeah.
that's how, they get it out of chases.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, and our
I just
readers
don't
love
do
that. We get the most hits on that kind of stuff. So, like Karen mentioned, you can go to what's called your publisher in Hootsuite and see your pending stuff. We don't have any scheduled messages right now, John.
I do. I dropped the ball.
Oh, snap.
But wait, the nice thing about Hootsuite is, so you can monitor it. It's free, or you can have a paid version, and the paid version lets you have multiple people managing it. Now we have multiple people managing it, we're just all using the same generic login, as opposed to individual logins. But I can go in and I can see if there's something in here that's wrong or needs to be updated, you can edit them, and that's really, really nice. And so if you're the person and you're managing 3 different people who's inside of the system and they're all doing those things, then you want to put, and I need to be better at this, time into your schedule to go and see what everybody else is doing to make sure the voice sounds the same, you're not double posting on certain things, just to make sure it's nice and clean. 3 different people didn't post at the same time. There's nothing more annoying than 3 posts that go out like that. It's just really weird. So, yeah.
Hootsuite has a really good app too, so
Yes.
you can bring this with you everywhere you go. If this is your kind of responsibility, as it is for me. I've been in terrible situations where I'm with a family member in the hospital, and all of a sudden you think, oh my God, I didn't update that at all yesterday. So, you open up the app, you schedule some things, and you feel a little more relaxed about work. And
Yeah, I have the app on my phone, so I have the regular Twitter app that I use for my personal Twitter, and then I have the Hootsuite app so that they're separate. I don't accidentally post to the wrong one. Don't do that. Or don't check your library in at a bar. Don't do that.
Well, our book club is at a
Unless you're actually there on library business.
Yeah, I think Tina, do you have a quick question?
Yeah, I do. The person who set up our Twitter account set it up so that anything that we post on Facebook just goes right into.
That was my question.
Yeah, some
Oh,
people.
we're gonna talk about that.
Some-
Are you gonna address that?
Why
Okay.
are we doing that?
I will address that.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
I feel like we shouldn't be,
Sarah will talk about
Yeah.
that, yeah. we-
So,
but that's all we tweet.
yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I'll talk a little bit more about why, but do not do that. But I have the Hootsuite app on my phone. I know there are some people who, like to keep their personal life and their business life separate. My life is on my phone, and so I have the separate apps because that's the easiest way for me to manage it. But I don't want to miss an opportunity where I'm standing out on the quad we do picnics on the quad just kind of ad hoc throughout the summer, staff and faculty, and if something cool is happening and I want to post a picture of people hanging out on the quad during the summer, I want to be able to snap a picture and get it posted immediately because it's that kind of impromptu stuff that's really fun. That's what people like to watch. During the winter when we had that huge snowstorm, a bunch of students went out the night after and built this giant snowman in the middle of the colonnade upstairs. And so I put on my giant snow boots and trudged through the snow and got out there to get a picture of this thing because it was just too cool. And those are the types of things that you want to be able to get to quickly. If you're the kind of person who doesn't want to have work things on your phone or you don't have a smartphone, all you need is an iPod Touch. It'll take pictures, and so long as you got Wi-Fi, you can post. So that's an easy way if you're at an event to have that quick in your pocket. You can be, tweeting and posting to Facebook in a moment. Really low cost. Most people can get their hands on it. You can get a refurbished one for next to nothing at this point. So long as it's got a camera, and you can connect to the Wi-Fi, you can post wherever you go. So that's an easy way to keep those separate if that's more your style. You can now post and schedule so this is my library's page. You can schedule directly in Facebook natively. One of the problems we're having with Hootsuite right now, and I can show you some of these, Facebook is kind of locking down on what they're going to allow through. So what used to be really nice pictures going through with all my tweets going through Hootsuite, because you can post to Twitter and Facebook at the same time if you want to. So if it's something like an emergency closure, hit both Facebook and just send it out, because you're just going to say, due to an emergency, we're closed today. You don't have to worry about the fact that you're putting the same thing on both pages. So that's a nice little feature. So here you can post. The trick is, you just use this little, it's kind of hard for you guys to see because it's off the screen, but there's a little time clock right there, I swear. It's the most cumbersome way to do it. It's add the year, and then the day, and then the
Year. What you want to post next year.
down to the minute, and you have to go one at a time and come across the screen. But nonetheless, it lets you do it. And because we're having issues with getting these pictures to come out, we're getting some really nasty, just looking posts. So we're probably going to move to scheduling natively here because we know they're going to look nicer. 2 things to know about scheduling in Facebook. Pictures can be scheduled, albums cannot. And then you can't edit it. You can go and look at them to see what you've got lined up. You can only delete it. So you can't, so if you need to change it for whatever reason, you got to delete it and schedule it again. Not horrible, but not awesome either. Tweetdeck, some of you might be familiar with Tweetdeck. Tweetdeck used to be a lot more like Hootsuite. It was kind of like Tweetdeck versus Hootsuite. Just recently in May, Tweetdeck was bought out by Twitter. So if you're going to schedule natively to Twitter, you're actually going to do it through Tweetdeck because it's the same company now. But it's the same thing. You get to create feeds. You can create those, just add a column. So I can do the same thing and say, I'm going to create a search for Brookings Library and have a feed for that so I can see them come through when people are talking about us. All sorts of other things. It's a really easy way to consume. And then you can schedule out in there as well. So you can kind of do them separately, but still have the ability to schedule out when you're gonna be gone at a conference. When it's things you just don't want to forget, if your hours are changing, the university hours change all the time based on semesters. Being able to just schedule that out so I know that they're gonna go, because they're not pretty tweets to begin with, they're supposed to be, it just is our hours are changing for the summer kind of thing. It's nice to make sure that I get those out so I'm not sitting at home on Saturday afternoon going, crap. Probably people are at the door knocking because I didn't say we were closed or whatever the case may be.